Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God. Good afternoon. Greetings, salutations. Let's edify. After we get the cords up out of the way. Welcome to another study to show ourselves approved unto God. Workmen that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. You done? Good afternoon, CJ. Trying to figure out if you were trying to say that I got it wrong or something. Okay. Because that was all from memory. Okay. So what was that all about?
Hi! That was my vigorous hi, Levi!
Anyhow, in these episodes, we are studying beginning at the beginning of the Bible. That is, of course, Genesis, a very good place to begin. And we have been studying the life of Abraham lately. We have just finished up the death of, covering the death of Sarah at 127 years old. And the surrounding culture or the surrounding practice. And hello, Sam. Good to see you. Of purchase and how Abraham went to some pretty big lengths not to be connected or beholden, rather, to the people of this land. If you remember, he refused any of the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah when he rescued those two towns. Hello, Heather. Good to see you as well. And when he rescued Lot and the men and townspeople of Sodom and Gomorrah, he refused any of their goods, lest the people say that that Abraham had received anything from them, or they were the reason that Abraham was as wealthy as he was. And he then went on here to essentially do the same thing by purchasing the cave of Machpelah from Elon the Hittite, so that he was again not beholden to the Hittites or the Canaanites. And we're going to look at another aspect of that same aversion. And there's good reason for this this aversion to anything tied to the Hittites, or being beholden to the Hittites, or the Canaanites rather. And that, of course, being that God's going to wipe them out. Abraham knew that God was going to dispossess them, and that his descendants were going to be the ones, the recipients of the land, when God dispossessed them. But he didn't want his people to intermingle with those who were wicked and those who were, for lack of a better term, unholy. Kind of gives us a perspective that we may not have considered, but it also held true even into the Mosaical age, when Moses commanded Israel not to take wives or to give their daughters as wives to the land, to the people of Canaan. They were strictly enjoined not to do this type of stuff. Well, Abraham didn't want that either. In Genesis chapter 24, where we begin, or where we pick up, whoops. There we go. That's better. Abraham's old and well stricken in age, and the Lord had blessed him in all things. Whoops. That's not exactly what I wanted to do. There we go. So Abraham says, okay, it's time now for Isaac to have a wife. And so he calls his eldest servant, which would be his, typically would be his second in command, and says to him, make a covenant with me, make an oath. Now, I'm not going to get into the culture or the practice of how they made this particular oath. It's kind of immaterial. However, God did see fit to show this. And so I'll just say, put it in there as in, it's sufficient to say that this was a common practice for making an oath at this time. That practice changed to where they would, under the law of Moses, they would go before the priest and make an oath. But here, Abraham was a prophet of God, and he was the leader of the family. And so this was the practice. It's a covenant. It's a commitment. And he tells this servant, it would more than likely be Eliezer, Eliezer of Damascus, which we saw a few chapters ago when they try to when Abraham and Sarai tried to push God's timetable forward on their own. In Genesis 15. No, but be that as it may, this servant goes ahead and makes this covenant with Abraham. The covenant is, you're not going to take a wife unto my son of the daughters of Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but you're going to go to my kindred, my country, and take one of my kindred from there. Now, why didn't Isaac just choose one? For example, Hamor, the son of Shechem, happened to see Dinah in a few chapters. And this is spoilers. And decided that she was very pleasant to look at. And so he raped her and then turned around and said, you know what? I like her a lot. I want her for my wife. In today's society, we have guys and gals that go out and date. Why didn't Isaac do the same thing? CJ says, not the culture or not old enough. When Abraham had Isaac, Abraham was 99 years old. Sarah was 90. Sarah died at 127. That would mean that Isaac was a minimum of 37 years old by this time. So would the age be an issue? It would be something to do with the culture. See, back in those days, marriages were arranged. They were not. You didn't have. You did not have dating. You did not even have courtships. They were arranged. If you saw a woman that you thought to be desired, just like Hamor said to Shechem, go get this woman to be my wife. These marriages were arranged. Even if even if the son saw a woman that he liked, he still had a certain responsibility, or there was a certain way to go about it. And that is, it was, again, arranged. Sam says, is it because he wanted to make sure his lineage was pure? That would be, well, like I said, Abraham wanted to make sure that Isaac was not tied to the, there's a fly flying around here. Let's see if I can get it. Wasn't tied to the Canaanites whom God was going to destroy. There's also the idea that you don't want them to be ensnared in evil, right? And so this was an arranged marriage. This was going to happen, and usually the bride and groom had very little say in the matter. In the movie Fiddler on the Roof, which is one of my favorite musicals, Tevye, the main character, has 5 daughters, and there is a point in time where he has been, his first daughter, Seidel, I believe it's Seidel. Trust me, there's like I said, 5 daughters. But she has determined to marry the tailor, and even though he has arranged a marriage with the butcher, he ends up breaking that arrangement and giving her to the tailor because he doesn't want to see the heartbreak. And he sits down at one point in time with his wife, Goldie, and he says, "Goldie, do you love me?" And there follows a song, of course, but the wording behind it is, my father and my mother arranged for this marriage, and they said that we would learn to love one another. And so I'm asking Goldie, do you love me? And she's like, well, after 25 years of cooking for you and cleaning for you and bearing 5 children for you and this and that and the other thing, well, I guess I do love you. And and she says, if that's not love, what is? But the point is that even as early as World War I, in the Jewish community, marriages were still being arranged. And no, it wasn't the it wasn't the father that asked per se. It was actually Laban. But we'll get into that in a bit. It was Laban. It was the menfolk that asked her, but they left it up to her to make that decision. Not every culture was the same way, though, Sam. And that is another interesting point. Because a lot of cultures, the woman had no say in the matter. And there are places, even in Africa, for example, today, where women do not have a say. There are certain tribes where once the deal is struck, you're out of luck. So the servant asks about suggests a stipulation. Perhaps the woman's not willing to follow me. Do I bring your son to that land? And Abraham says, no, don't you dare. Lord's going to bless you. And if she doesn't want to follow you, then you're free of your oath. But do not take my son to that land. Laban is different than his father. Laban is Rebekah's brother. And we have to remember that. Laban is not Rebekah's father. He is her brother. Laban is Rachel and Leah's father. So the servant puts his hand under the thigh of Abraham and makes the covenant, swears about it. And the servant then takes 10 camels of all of his master and departs, for all the goods of his master were in his hand. This is why I say it was Eliezer, more than likely Eliezer of Damascus. This is his steward. So he arises, goes to Mesopotamia unto the city of Nahor. Remember that Abraham went from Ur of the Chaldees, moved to Haran, and that is where he separated from his father Nahor after his brother Haran died. That is Abraham's brother Haran. And he left Nahor and his other brother, Bethuel, I think it's Bethuel, there, and traveled to Canaan, because God said, leave your kindred and go to a land which shall show you. Lot, the son of Haran, went with Abraham. So he goes back to Nahor. That would be Terah. Terah was the father. Then there was Haran, Nahor, and there we go. Now I got it. So Haran, Abraham, and Nahor. So he leaves Terah and Nahor after the death of Haran, and with Lot, the son of Haran, Abraham travels to, Canaan. Well, this servant goes back to Haran, where Nahor is, and he makes the camels to kneel. He comes to this and he prays to God at the time of evening, where all the women go out in the cooler time of the day to draw water. It doesn't make sense to go out in the very hot part of the day to draw water. You're going to lose water to evaporation. It's hard. It's exhaustive work. It's better just to wait until the cool of the evening to go out and draw water. And so he comes to that time of evening to that well by the city, and he prays to God. This again attests to to the impact of Abraham, does it not? That his whole household would conform to worshiping God and to know and to pray to God. O Lord God of my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me a good speed this day, and show kindness unto my master Abraham. Ishmael knew of God. Isaac knew God. And even his steward knew God because of Abraham and how well he ran his household. So he asks for a sign, just like Gideon. God says, "Here, ask for you what you will of a sign." And the steward says, "Okay, here's." Gideon was told to ask a sign, and Gideon asked a sign: "Do on the sheepskin, everybody everywhere else dry, and vice versa." Well, the servant asked God, "Lord, let it be, let the sign be that if the damsel responds to my inquiry, drink, and I will draw for your camels as well. Then that one will be the one you want me to pick. Then that will be the one you have chosen for my master." And then I shall know you have shown kindness unto my master. And we're not told. Well, we are kind of told how many women came to him before. How many women did he have to go through before he got to Rebecca? Zero. Because before he had done praying, before he had finished, there was Rebecca, the granddaughter of Nahor, the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor. So Bethuel is the son of Nahor. Bethuel is to Abraham what Lot is. And again, what we have here is a very fair damsel to look upon. I hate those Asian beetles. Anyway, almost as bad as a time change. So he sees her go to the well, fill up her pitcher, and as she's coming back towards town, the servant runs to meet her and says, "Hey, can I have a drink, please?" I'm putting it in today's language. Can I have a pitcher? Can I have a drink, please? And she says, "Sure, here, drink up." And she said, when he'd finished, she said, "I'll draw for your camels too, until they've done drinking." And you see the stunned look on his face, because nobody's been around that would have heard him say pray this prayer. He's stunned. He's shocked. How about you? Would you have been shocked? Got him. I don't know about you. I would have been shocked. It's one thing to believe in the power of prayer. It's another thing to have it immediately answered right in front of your face, isn't it? And yet that's exactly what happened to this. That's exactly what happened to this particular servant. So he's wondering, he's amazed, he's shocked, he's stunned. And, he just, cat's got his tongue. And he's mulling this over. Has God made my journey prosperous? And so it comes to pass, as the camels were done drinking, the man took a golden earring, a half shekel weight, 2 bracelets for her hands, and he asked her, "And whose daughter art you? Tell me. And is there room in your father's house for us to lodge in?" And so, he asked after her parentage and after lodging. Is that Amos? Larry. She says unto him, "I'm the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, and she bare to Nahor." And she says to him, moreover, she says, "We've got both straw and provender to lodge in." And look at that. This here, Genesis 24:26, is the exact answer to Genesis 24:21. In other words, he found out God had prospered immediately he found out God had prospered his way. And so he bows down. He doesn't go with her. He doesn't do anything except immediately fall down, and he worships his head, bows his head and worships God and says, "Blessed be the Lord God of my master Abraham." What kind of an effect do you think this would have on Rebecca? Let's put ourselves in Rebecca's place for a moment. It's a normal day. She's been sent to draw water for the house. She walks out past this caravan that has recently arrived, and she goes down to the well, draws water, and as she's on her way back, the man from the caravan runs out to her and says, "Hey, can I have a drink?" And she, being the kindly soul that she is, she lets down her pitcher off her shoulder and says, "Sure, have a drink." And after he has slacked his thirst, she says, "Hey, let me draw water for your camels as well, till they're done drinking. And so she goes and she fills the trough of water for the camels to drink. Now, as she's finished, he comes up to her. The man comes up to her again, and he's obviously the leader of the caravan. And he says to her, "Whose daughter are you?" As he hands her some jewelry. And whose daughter are you? And is there room for us? Can we beg a room for you from you for the night? And she says, "Well, I'm the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, whom and sure, we've got plenty of food and water for your animals to lodge in." And then to have this man drop his head immediately and begin to worshiping and said, "Blessed be the God of my father, of my master Abraham, who..." Now, she wouldn't have known Abraham. She would know nothing of this Abraham. And to have this man suddenly drop his head and begin worshiping God, and right before her, well, it isn't any wonder the woman, the poor young lady, ran back to the house. Sam says she didn't seem to mind. She was happy to consent. But you consent to what, Sam? There's been nothing asked of her at the moment, except for lodging. And that's not really her place to give. But this strangeness, this surrealness, she runs off and tells her mother's household these things. You can see her come in. She's talking to her mother, and Laban's hearing this as well. And Laban, notice this, he runs unto the man, but he does it after he sees the earrings and the bracelets upon his sister's hand, and he hears the words of Rebekah. What does that imply right there about Laban?
Can you repeat your wind-up question? Your wind-up to that question?
Really? That was a long wind-up. You need to pay attention. Okay, so Rebekah runs to home after all this strangeness is going on. This man suddenly starts worshiping God in front of her. And she doesn't know. I mean, she obviously doesn't know anything about Abraham, because Abraham's not been around. Abraham was long gone before she was born. But she runs home and straight tells her mother and house all about this strangeness. And her brother Laban's hearing this. And he sees the earrings, he runs to the man at the well in verse 29, but he does it after he sees the earring and the bracelets upon his sister's hands. And then after he hears the words of Rebekah, his sister, thus spake the man unto me. And the man still standing by the well where she left him. But what does this imply about Laban? And trust me, there's a reason that the Bible has this part in it. Laban might fear God. Well, not really. He's greedy. He's a man given over to the pursuit of gain, of gold and wealth and profit. We can see that here. And spoiler alert, we see it also in the days of Jacob, who, when Jacob worked for him, changed Jacob's wages 10 times. Jacob worked for Laban 20 years, and during those 20 years, his wages were changed 10 times. And the reason that Laban wanted Jacob to stay with him was because he saw that God had blessed Jacob. So as long as Jacob stayed with Laban, Laban was being blessed. So what we see here, even at a young age, because he's a lot younger here, Laban is a greedy little brother, or even older brother. And he recognized that there was something to be gained by housing this stranger who had 10 camels and was giving such gifts just for some water. So he goes and he invites the stranger in, and you can, looking at that, you can see the obsequiousness, the fawning, as it were, over this stranger. Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. Come in, wherefore standest thou without? I have prepared the house and room for the camels. Come in, come in. Do you see it? So the servant comes in, sits down, basically sees to his camels. And this actually speaks to the man. He is, as a servant and as a steward, he is more concerned with his animals and sees to their needs first before his own needs. One of the signs of a good farmer in this country, or in the country where I'm from, here in Iowa, is that we always see to the needs of our farm animals before our own needs. Because we can go for a little bit longer, or we can eat standing up while we're working. But we have had these animals given into our care, or we have volunteered care for these animals. And so we need to take care of them. Also, the idea is that we gain much from these animals, and so we need to take care of them in return. And so therefore their needs comes before ours. And this servant has that same ethic. So unfortunately my time has lapsed. Man, and I was just getting into the meat of things. You see what I did there? Well, we almost made it.
Well, most of the chapter is just him telling them what just happened.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Why not? I can go another 5 minutes. Um, so in Genesis 24:33, would you stop that? Thank you. In Genesis 24:33, they sit down and to meet, but he says, "I'm not going to eat until I have told the reason I'm here." And now, here's the deal. He's sitting at meat. He's sitting with Bethuel, the son of Nahor. We're not told. We're evidently Nahor's passed on, but we have Bethuel and we have Laban, and they're sitting here, and so. He then speaks to them. Bethuel would have known, or is very possible to have known, Abraham. Laban, no. But Bethuel, yes. I want to see. So, and the reason I say that Bethuel is here is because of verse 50 right here. Bethuel is with Laban, and they are sitting there at meat with the servant. Laban and Bethuel answered. Okay, so back in 33, 34. Well, 33, they said, "Speak on." He said, "Speak on." And so Abraham's servant speaks, and he says, "I am Abraham's servant." They would know Abraham. And he speaks to them as if they knew Abraham, or at least as if Bethuel knew Abraham. And he kind of brings them up to speed. My master has become great because God has greatly blessed him. He's given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and men servants and maidservants and camels and asses. And Sarah, my mother's wife, bare a son to my master when she was old. And he's been given, and he gave everything he has to that son. Now, and then he brings them up to speed on his mission, and repeats exactly what happened. Before I had done speaking in my heart. By the way, CJ, you remember how you were talking about prayers yesterday evening? This is one aspect of prayer that we can also throw in there, that prayers can be done silently. Prayers do not have to be spoken out loud. They can be spoken in the silence of our heart. And another good example of that, of course, is Hannah, who in the silence of her heart was speaking, even though her lips were moving, no sound was coming out. 1 Samuel chapter 1. But, okay, that's a side note. That's a freebie. There you go. So the servant was speaking in his heart, there comes Rebecca with her pitcher. And he shows that she answered the prayer that he had prayed. And then he asked them directly, if you will deal kindly with me and truly with my master, kindly and truly with my master, tell me. If not, tell me, that I may know to turn to the right or the left. Answer my, give me an answer now so that I can know where to go from here. Bethuel and Laban both says this thing proceedeth from the Lord. Sam said earlier that Laban believed in the Lord. And I want to say that he believed in the Lord so long as it profited him, or so long as Bethuel was alive. I know this because of this here. Bethuel answered, the thing proceedeth from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. But then in future, what we have is him worshiping teraphim. In other words, man-made gods. And we'll get to that in a few chapters. So by the time that Rachel and Leah come along, Laban is worshiping idols. Bethuel, however, is still one who believes in God. At least from this perspective. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go. Let her be thy master's son's wife, as the Lord hath spoken. So they agree. And because they attribute it to the Lord. And Laban gets his desire. The servant brings forth jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment, gives them to Rebekah. He gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things. So he basically paid the bride price. And then they ate and drank. Essentially, what they do here in this, again, we're going to go back to the culture. In arranged marriages, there's always a bride price. In those tribes in Africa, you usually exchange goats. A goat or 2 goats or 5 goats for the woman. Here, he gave trinkets, as in gold jewelry and raiment, and he paid a price for Rebekah, not as an object, but as a dowry. Think of it as instead of it being as in buying property, the cost of raising up a daughter. Okay. And so then they cement the relationship or cement the agreement with food and drink, with a ceremony. They rise up, then they go to, they have their ceremony, then they all go to bed, and he rises up in the morning, and he's like, okay, it's time for me to go. We've done the deal. It's time for me to leave. Send me away. But her mother, they said, no, you can't say, let her stay with us at least 10 days. This is too sudden. And he's insistent on going. Yes, custom is dowry, and usually a wedding feast would be celebrated. Now, here's the problem, Sam. In this regard, the bride and the groom were not going to be hitched, in our common vernacular, in a place where the bride's parents could be present. And so there was a celebration there. And then there would be a similar type of a celebration over where Isaac was. You get to the idea, don't you? You kind of see the character of Laban. And you kind of wonder if he didn't get it from his mother. However, she did. She also has a legitimate reason. Hey, I want to spend at least 10 days with my daughter before she goes. I mean, this is kind of sudden. I'm gonna miss my daughter. And he's like, no, it's time for me to go. And so they said, okay, well, we'll call the damsel. We'll call Rebecca and see what she decides. And so they called Rebecca and said unto her, will you go with this man? She says, yep, I'm going. See ya. So they bless her. You know, that CJ's dying with laughter over there.
I love your commentary.
Rebecca is not a dumb woman, right? She is as smart as a whip. She is smart as a tack. Sharp as a tack, smart as a whip. She knows why they want her to stay. And she's ready to go. The deed's done. You've cemented the deal. I'm going. Bye-bye. And then so they send her away, and they give her nurse, the gal that helped raise her, and they bless her. And I love the blessing that they give to Rebecca. Stop and think about this blessing. You are our sister. Be thou the mother of thousands, of millions. Let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. That's a beautiful blessing. Because what they're doing is calling down a blessing of prosperity upon her. In a day and age, in a culture where children are honored and prized, and those who bear children are revered, that's exactly what they're calling down upon Rebecca. It is a place of honor and reverence and prosperity. And kick her out the door. So Rebecca rides with her damsels. They ride upon the camels. Follow the man, the servant of Rebecca. Her servant and Rebecca went his way. So they have come this long journey. Isaac comes from the way of the well of Lahairoi, which, by the way, became known as Beer Lahairoi. For he dwelt in the south country. And as he's meditating in the field, he's not plowing the field. He's out meditating. He doesn't have the law of Moses to meditate upon, like David did. Hold on. But he's meditating in the field in the evening of the day. And he lifts up his eyes and he sees this caravan coming. And he would recognize the caravan. He would recognize his own camels and the colorations and what is it? I can't remember now. It's something about, anyway, he saw the saddles, he saw the camels, he knew whose they were. They were distinguishable. And he sees them coming, and he goes towards the camels. And Rebecca, she's on the camel, and she looks and she sees Isaac coming, and so she gets off the camel. For she had asked the servant, "Who is this man that's coming in the field to meet us?" And the servant looks at him and says, "It's my master." So now, as the bride to be, or as the bride, she takes a veil and she covers herself so he can't see her. And we get that. We kind of have carried that idea forward all this way in our culture, in our practice, to where women, the brides, wear veils because it's not proper for the bridegroom to see their wife before the bride to be before the wedding. Good evening, Carol. And so she puts the veil on, and the servant tells Isaac all the things as they're walking along towards the encampment. Isaac brings her. Now, this is important. Isaac brings Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, takes Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Why is this important? And by the way, Sam, it doesn't say he was wowed by Rebekah. Because remember, he didn't see her face until after until after she became his wife. She covered herself. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to have to tell you. It's important to know this because, one, in bringing her into his mother Sarah's tent, she becomes the head woman of the encampment. That tent is only reserved for the main wife, for the matriarch, the head woman of the family. Remember that the servant had told Laban and Bethuel that Abraham had given everything to Isaac. That means that Isaac was the head honcho. Yes, Abraham still played a part as the patriarch of the family, but all the possessions were now under the leadership of Isaac. And with Sarah's tent now occupied by Rebekah, she became his wife. And he's now comforted after the loss of his mother. Who he lost 3 years prior. Okay, so let's see here. Good. Anything else? Alrighty. Well then, I hope and pray that you have been able to take some encouragement, some instruction, and been able to study and show yourself approved unto God through our time today. As you consider and meditate upon Genesis chapter 24, continue to read Genesis 25 and 26 for tomorrow, for next week. Maybe we'll get even further than that. And in all that you do, remember, our overwhelming goal is to study, to show ourselves approved unto God. I'll see you then. God bless and you walk with Him. Love you all.